Welcome to another episode of Get Real. I'm Tom Lemons. Today's guest, I have Commissioner Steve Champion in Hernando County. He's going to give us a little bit of an update and what's been going on up there with at least the last commissioners meeting. And one before that, there was a little bit of, we had a little craziness back then too, but a lot of fireworks going on. And as everyone knows, Mr. Champion is one of those outspoken conservative commissioners in the county. And he is going to tell us a little bit about what's been going on. So Steve, go ahead and, this last meeting, there was some information about the fire rescue, some of the things going on with that, with the taxes. And can you fill us in about what went on Tuesday?
Yeah, well, first off, good afternoon. Thanks for having me on, to you and all your listeners. Well, as far as the last meeting, we had, it's budget season. So when you think about this, when you get into May and June, July, you're really getting hot and heavy into the new budget season. Whether you're aware of it or not, our new budget starts on October 1st. So the government doesn't start on January 1 like normal people in the rest of the world for whatever reason. So right now we're, going through the budgets, we're getting constitutional budgets, et cetera. And as you know, we've had, several conversations that I propose to leave taxes 100% flat. I'm talking no additional taxes on the people and try to freeze the taxes, especially while we're assembling our DOGE committee, our citizen committee to kind of look through government spending, et cetera. And when you look at the historical data from Hernando County, from 2016 when I got into office until now, the most budgets, all of them have at least doubled. Some have almost tripled. And my argument to the other commissioners and to the public and staff is that we've only went up 12% of population. And even if you took 25% CPI, or some people say as much as, 37% inflation, even if you take those high numbers, there's no reason for us to be double or triple the budget. So it has nothing to do, it's not personal. It has nothing to do against a single department. Like, for example, fire, the firefighters' budget. It has nothing to do with them. It really has to do with the overall budget, because everybody wants more. Every department wants more. And my thought was, why don't we in the beginning freeze the budgets and then keep them flat for 1 year, not cut them, but keep them flat so we can get control over these local budgets. And just 2 meetings ago, I played the video from our governor, from our Senator Blaise Ngoya, where they were sitting there criticizing all our local governments because their budgets are out of control. Our taxes are completely out of control. Hernando is not an exception. It is out of control. Not because of the commissioners in general, but because of the market. The home values that went up. There's been new homes added to the market, et cetera, and the comps. It brings up the value. So we should have been dropping taxes more. Now, of course, the last 8 years, every single year I propose to drop taxes, I get outvoted. Just about every single year. So I'm always looking out for the people, trying to get the lowest tax rate possible. So at this last meeting, I proposed the same thing. I brought it back up. I really wanted them to commit one way or the other, because I wanted our listeners to know, or our citizens to know that who's for it and who's not. And of course, Commissioner Amsler has been more or less. I mean, we don't agree on everything, but more or less with me on the total. About cutting taxes and cutting regulation, et cetera. The other three continue to vote with the staff and with the government. And this last meeting, we brought up the firefighters. So firefighters are no different as far as the total budget. So when I got here in 2016, it was $158 per house. It's an MSCU for fire services. Now, granted, we had financial issues. We had to make tough decisions to raise that rate. Ended up going over 200. We made it sustainable. We got rid of the debt, and it was in the low 200s. Well, each year you can go up to 5% without a hearing. So each year, between, for whatever reasons, all the different reasons, that rates went up, and now it's about 360. Well, their new proposal was a 7% increase for 1 year, and to increase it all the way across to 2030 up to like $450, which would be triple what it was in 2016. I mean, numbers like that are just completely unacceptable. That, on top of the high cost of the fire station, there's triple the cost because we got vendors ripping us off. And that was another story for another day. I don't know if you want me to get into that, but all of these things are adding up. They're adding up. And the bottom line is our people, the average tax bill is $5,500 in Hernando, when just not 10 years ago was probably $1,500. How is that sustainable in Hernando County? And I understand that we could justify more firefighters. We could justify more police. We could justify more code enforcement or whatever department. We could justify it, but the people cannot afford it. That's the bottom line.
Well, I remember the sweet lady who walked up on Tuesday. I watched a little bit of that, and she was saying she cannot afford it. She's afraid she's going to be homeless because the taxes keep going up.
I don't use the AC because that's an expense I cannot afford. Something has to be done about how high rents are going. Right now, I'm paying 81% of my income towards rent. Next year, it's going to be close to 90.
And she was pleading with the commission to stop raising taxes. So do you feel like you're just speaking to a wall sometimes when you're fighting for the citizens like that?
Totally. The three commissioners, John Alaco, Brian Hawkins, and Jerry Campbell, I'm going to name them. And you can get them on here and ask them too. They do not vote for the citizens, period. And I'm going to do everything in my power to get the two of them out come 2016. Come 2026, 2026. We have to do something different. And, if the people vote them back in, they're going to continue to keep losing these battles because, I'm on the people's side. That's all I can tell you. I'm for limited government, as minimal as possible. Now, granted, our number one responsibility is to keep people safe. So, of course, I support law enforcement and fire rescue, et cetera. But there's a limit to everything, and we've taken care of those departments. I mean, they are adequately staffed. There's adequate budgets in there. And, when we mention things like adding a new fire station, it's like, that's fine as long as the growth supports it. And I asked the fire chief, I said, how many homes does it take? And we actually calculated it. For every 10,000 new homes, there needs to be a new fire station, which that new revenue would pay for the fire station and the staff without raising taxes. So if that's the case, then why aren't we taking the new revenue, putting it in an account? When we get close to 10,000, we build the fire station, we staff it, and then there should be an economy of scale. The more people you have, the more units you have, it should be cheaper for everyone. But you know what? Just like any other government, it never is cheaper. They keep raising the fees. They keep raising the taxes. And I think some of these commissioners forgot that. I mean, they ran on that. They ran on low taxes and small government, but they vote the opposite. They vote for big government. They vote to expand government, and they vote to not do what the citizens told us to do. And I recently did a poll on Facebook, and it's still up right now. And when they talked about this in the meeting, I did a poll, simple question, 2 questions. Number 1, do you want us to raise your taxes? Number 2, do you want us to hold the line and keep it flat? 98%. I had 800 responses from Hernando County, and that's pretty good considering only 20-something thousand people voted in the primary. 800-something people said no. They don't want their taxes raised.
Well, it's almost a rhetorical question, anyways, to ask people, do they want their taxes raised, right? But you had to do it. You had to prove it. And again, just like myself, and with doing our news, I've got my finger on the pulse of the community, and I know what they want. They don't want high taxes. They want taxes to come down. And you are one of the only voices. Now, I think you may have Ryan Amsler there with you too, backing up with the second vote. But you're always the one, fighting for the citizens. And it just seems like now the other 3, they'll say things like, well, we're just trying to prepare for the future. If we don't get ahead of the game, then, what are we going to do when we get to that point? We're overpopulated. We don't have the fire services. We don't have the sheriffs. How do you debate that argument? And does it just seem,
It's government smear tactics because we're not overpopulated. We're at 200 and depends on the number you look at. 212,000 people in a very large geographic county. I mean, it's a very large county with over 50% in conservation. So Pasco County is going on 1 million people. Hillsborough and Pinellas are multi-millions. So, and they're smaller counties. So we're really not that populated.
Right.
We should be comparing ourselves to Citrus County and Sumter and the smaller counties, but instead the government always likes to compare ourselves to the bigger counties, and I'm like, I never want to look like that.
Right.
And I actually made this mention, and actually this did not come from me. This came from Blaze Golia. I spoke to him, and he told me, he goes, a lot of times Republicans, we're business people, we're problem solvers, and myself included. And when you get into government, you think, how do I fix it? How do I fix everything, right? and all of us want to fix government. We want to fix it for the people. But some things just can't be fixed. I mean, the government cannot solve all of your problems, period.
Yeah.
And I made mention of this. I made mention in Tennessee where I have property. I said, I have 20 acres and 4 buildings, and I pay $900 a year. And they have no state tax. How do they get it done? Wow. How do they get it done for that? I mean, and just not too long ago, we used to do it for real cheap. So what is the fix? I mean, it's never enough. Right now,
Right.
it'll be $5,500. Before you know it, it'll be $10,000 like New York. And, and people can't afford to live here. And I'm especially concerned with our seniors. And we have a large amount of seniors in Hernando County.
Yes.
They're not getting 10 and 12 and 15% raises on their Social Security and everything else, or their pension, et cetera. So you never really own your house. And to me, it's really dangerous. And I applaud the governor and our legislation for trying to do something about property taxes. I don't know if it's feasible because how are they going to replace all that money, especially school board money? But that's above my pay grade.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Well, I tell you, man, I just go back to, like I said, hearing that woman's voice say that 80% of she's on a fixed income, 80% of her income is going towards rent or whatever or mortgage or whatever it is. And it's just, how do you do that? I mean, eventually it's going to surpass her income.
Did you see my response to her? Did you see my response as a landlord? I can tell you exactly why. $1,200 is cheap. I said, you should thank your lucky stars it's only $1,200. But if you think about it, that property, the average tax bill is almost $500 a month, right? Your average insurance bill is almost $300 a month. There's $800 of your $1,200. Not to mention the repairs and there could be tangible taxes. There could be a lot of stuff, and things break on a house, right? So think about $1,200 of $800 of it's going to some regulatory BS, taxes and insurance. So, I mean, and legislation needs to do something about insurance too, but again, above my pay grade. But when you look at that, you're going, like, something's got to give. This can't keep happening. And, and the commission has the power to do it. Listen, just like when your kids ask for something you can't afford, you got to say no. And just because some of the constitutionals ask for it, there's a reason why they put 5 of us up there. They put 5 of us because we control the money. That is our main job. Control the tax money. And, we're all business people. We've all been successful in business. And we've all been there where it's been difficult to write a payroll check because you were struggling. But you don't get to take loans. You don't get to give an IOU. You have to be able to bring in the money. And your customer, in my case, my businesses, they're only going to pay so much. It's a competitive environment. Well, who competes with the government? Nobody. That's why you elect us to hold the line and to say, look, we'll spend what we can afford. And of course, priority number 1 is public safety. And they're going to make it out to be that I'm not for public safety. Of course I am for public safety. All of us are. I'm a Republican conservative my whole life. And I applaud what law enforcement and our first responders are doing. But at the same time, we have to live within our means. And we're not living within our means.
So, Steve, I know you were asking to hold the line on the budget, but was there any negotiation, and how did that end up?
Well, just like politicians that are in Tallahassee or even in D.C., you don't always get what you want. If I was to get what I want, I'd be holding the line, or I would be cutting. Actually, my goal is to cut. I think we're way bloated, right? Mm-hmm. But I understood that wouldn't go through, so I started with hold the line, and they didn't agree. So you know what I went? I said, how about we go, the Consumer Price Index, CPI, and that's 2.1%, the lowest inflation in 4 years. That just came out, under Trump's watch, doing a great job, by the way. I'll just give a plug. And they wouldn't go for that. So I said, how about 3%? And remember, 3% is above the current rate. That does not include the new revenue coming in. So like every new house that comes in is going to get a new fire fee and new taxes and, et cetera. So when people talk about, well, growth paying for growth, well, it does. Because that tax revenue did not exist before. Right. So there's no reason for our rate to be skyrocketing the way it is when you have this new revenue coming online. And you know what? And I would urge the listeners, go to the meeting and watch it. You can watch each clip about each topic, and you watch the clips, and you tell me if I'm wrong or not. And I guarantee you, your public and citizens out there, the voters, are going to agree with me if they watch the meeting. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm definitely going to include a clip, some clips of the meeting in this video, but I'll also put a link to the full meeting. And I do, just like you said, I encourage my viewers and anyone in the county, you need to watch these meetings, either watch them online or go in person. And see, that ends up being a problem when it comes time for voting in Hernando County, every 2 years. And people get upset when someone's not, the one person they wanted elected doesn't get elected because what's the percentage of turnout? Something like 22% at the most.
It was 22% in the last primary, and that determined the commissioners, school board, and the sheriff were all determined in the primary, but only one of 5 people, and that was a primary, only one of 5 people voted. I mean, it's sad. I'm hoping in 26 there'll be a larger turnout because the governor's primary is on there. Yeah. So guess what? We're going to be picking a new governor. Hopefully people are going to show up because the governor is very important. We got to get the right one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, on that note, I'm going to just take a break real quick and say thank you to our sponsor, and we'll be right back.
We want to thank our sponsor, Tri-Peak Roofing, your Hernando County roofer.
All right, welcome back. So, Steve, what is that on right behind you there? What kind of gun is that?
Oh, it's a 308 rifle.
Okay. Now, just so everybody knows, Steve is, big Second Amendment guy. He just we the people. He just transferred ownership of American Gun and Pawn to your son and daughter-in-law, right? Or is it the other way around?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still involved, but they're the primary now. It's going to be their business. After we get through the finances and stuff like that, but they're running the show now.
Yeah. Yep. So still a great business. So make sure you head out there if you have a need to purchase a firearm or any kind of pawn business. But so anyway, Steve, back to an issue that we've talked about quite a bit, and that. And again, I don't know. I can't understand why anyone would be for this, but that's the flock cameras, the Chinese spy cameras that are positioned all over the county. And I just don't know. I have a bad feeling about it. I feel like it's just spying on people. And why? And I know you don't like them either. So tell us, what could we do? Can we get them off county roadways? And does that come down to a vote?
I mean, it definitely does. And this last meeting, I actually brought it up, and I asked for them to vote and consent to tell the sheriff to remove them because they're on our right of ways. And I'm gonna tell you why I don't believe that they should be there, because these are just simply spy cameras that are there recording everyone and tracking the population. And the sheriff tells us that they don't track anyone, that they have to have certain criteria to do it, et cetera. But then all you got to do is go to Flock's website or go on Facebook, where they advertise everywhere. They advertise that they can get data for people in HOAs, and they can track plates, and they can track people down if you pay a fee. So where are they getting this data from? And maybe I'm wrong about some of the stuff, but when you have an opening like this, it's just guaranteeing that your constitutional rights are going to be violated. So I don't believe that our free people deserve to be tracked and followed by a spy camera on the side of the road. Now, the difference between that camera that I'm against and the body-worn cameras that I'm for is that, and I've told you this before, the body-worn cameras should be activated when you stop my freedom. So when you stop a free person on the road, regardless of who they are, a traffic stop or, domestic or whatever, we should be recording that because you've detained that person now. That's different. That's different. So you're protecting the officer, you're protecting the citizen. So those are two different things, because I've been challenged on that before. Why you're for one and not the other? Right. And the fact that the flock cameras were done in secret, never brought to the commission, never asked us to put them on the right of way. They just simply pulled a permit with the county to put them in the right of way. They didn't say really what they were. It was really shady. It was really, really shady. And I tell you, the citizens are not happy with it. Anyone I talk to, they absolutely disagree. They don't want them. And I think it's done on purpose. I really do. I think it's done on purpose. Oh, there's nothing to do, nothing to see here. Yeah. You don't need to talk about this. And at one point, the sheriff even told us not to talk about it. And he made it sound like it was illegal to do so. I'm like, what are you talking about? Everything is transparent to the public. Right. On what we do. Right. Well, we don't hide anything from the public. So I am adamantly against them. They should be moved. And if any real conservative Republican is in office, should never condone using these cameras to spy on people.
Well, that's another issue that you seem to be, up against the wall with 3 of the commissioners again. I know Ryan Amsler is not for them. I know he's also pro body camera, as you are. And, we've argued this, we debated it, we beat it, like a dead horse. And it is just that it doesn't seem to be going in, or just going in one ear out the other of Sheriff Al Nienhuis. But I want to bring up something I discovered recently when I was doing some investigating into because Sheriff Nice, when he comes in and he pleads his case about why he doesn't want body cameras, he says it's because of the ratio, the deputy per 1,000 citizens ratio. And his currently, as of 2024, his current deputy per 1,000 is 1.37. I'm not sure what he's actually said in public. It may be slightly different recently, but this is at 2024. There are 2, 4, 6, 8. There's at least 20 counties below him who have much lower ratios. Even Collier County and Lee County have not even a full deputy, a 0.90 per 1,000. And yet many of these counties, at least 8 of these counties currently have, below Hernando County, were able to procure a body camera program with their deputies. And these are variable, the variables are different as far as the population, the number of deputies. And like I said, it's his argument doesn't seem to be holding water. I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, just look at what happened in Citrus, right? The former sheriff did not want body cameras, and he wanted to raise taxes and all that. And he got ousted big time. Mm-hmm. He got beat 60-something%, 30-something%. The new sheriff came in, boom, within a couple months, body cameras.
Yep.
Made it work. So the citizens that are listening, it can happen. And it will happen, because we're going to get him out. He's going to go bye-bye. One way or the other come 2028. And we'll get, if he doesn't want to do it, we'll get somebody that can do it. Right. And that's what it boils down to. I mean, you got to vote. You vote, and you can make changes. If we had one more vote on commission, we wouldn't have spy cameras on the road, because we'd have 3 votes and it'd be gone.
Right.
We would be lowering taxes. We had a 3rd vote, we'd be lowering taxes. I mean, and when it boils down to with the officers per 1,000 that you're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. We got to look at the county you're in too, right? So, like I told him several times, we don't need any deputies in my neighborhood. We protect ourselves. Trust that. See that going behind me? We take care of ourselves, right? Right. So, and there's a lot of the county that way. And I'm not saying there's not vulnerable people and we don't need law enforcement, because we do.
Right.
But again, going back to what I said before, we don't just need to add just to add. If there's a big need, of course we'll do what we have to do to curb crime, etc. But I think we have great deputies. They do a fantastic job. I'm happy with the whole organization, other than leadership. Yeah. And that's what it boils down to. We get the right leader in, we can make it work. But I believe there's plenty of resources to do the job. And of course, he always asks for more and more and more. And I asked for public records requests to get his budget from last year, et cetera. I still don't have it yet. And I'm a commissioner, and I can't get the documentation, because I'm going to look through every line on what we're spending. What do we spend on? Did he add the deputies he need to add? Et cetera. But I still don't have it. And there's the reason why. We'll see if I ever get it. Well, but in general, though, it's not a lack of officers or anything. It's political. That's what it boils down to. Why we're not doing body cameras.
Right. Transparency, and it's political. And it is the point. He does not want that transparency. He's taken every step that he can to eliminate transparency in the county, and in other ways, like with the encryption of the broadcasting the dispatch radio, which I know that's a thing that's going on across the country, but it's just another thing that he pushed through quickly to get rid of transparency, along with not having body cameras, along with it just isn't going the right direction. And this being a red county, you should have the support of all your fellow commissioners. As you being the most conservative, I guess we can just go ahead and say that. Why do you think these guys aren't doing the right thing? I mean, I know we've talked about this all the time, but what is going on here? Is it just the political atmosphere? What is it?
I think they just don't want Steve Champion to be right. I don't know, I guess. I have no idea. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I talk to citizens and I go, am I speaking Greek? Do I make sense? I think you even said last night, you were watching a video and you were like, wow, you make a lot of sense. Yeah. Like when you're talking about these things, I would urge the citizens, go watch the meeting and you tell me if I'm wrong. And if enough citizens tell me I'm wrong, I mean, I'll listen to them but I don't think they're going to disagree with me. I really don't.
No.
I mean, bottom line is it should not be this difficult. Not with a whole Republican commission and Republican constitutionals. And you know what? We have a lot of constitutionals do a great job. So I'm not grouping them all into this thing. There's a lot of them that are doing a fantastic job, and they save money, and they do everything they can to reduce the burden on our taxpayers.
Yes.
And that's what it boils down to. And the bottom line is we can't afford it. And along with the things we have to afford, like things like body cameras, we could get with a grant. And we've already proven that. And I even asked Blaze and Goya when I talked to him. I said, "Well, you got Citrus County a grant for body cameras?" And he said, "Yeah, they asked for it, and we gave it to them." Mm-hmm. I think we would get them if we asked for them too.
Oh, it would. It would. As a matter of fact, on the same day that Citrus asked for their grant, Sheriff Nieheis asked for a grant as well, but it wasn't for body cameras. It was for something else. I can't remember what it is right now. It's in an article I recently did. But yeah, there's just no effort at all on his part to find the funding. Matter of fact, another point real quick, I almost forgot to say it, but the funding issue, when Sheriff Nieheis talks about the storage of the video and having to hire a dedicated person to run that office, which when I asked Citrus County, they said we didn't have to hire anyone dedicated to run that. And with Axon, with their contract, storage is included. There is no extra storage that you have to purchase. It's included in their package. So it just seems to be very deceptive, and that's my opinion. But
I mean, something's got to change. Something's got to change. But again, 2026 and 2028, the citizens can do something about it.
That's right. Well, let's hope they come out and vote that time. One last thing real quick before we go. I did want to, give out our thoughts and prayers to Israel. They're going, after this attack into Iran. I'd like to get your thoughts on it too, but I know that they're all probably in fear right now of a major retaliation from Iran, and just get some thoughts from you on that.
Well, I tell you, Israel's one of the most civilized societies right there in the middle of all that mess. Can you imagine being there where everybody around you wants you annihilated, you and your family dead? All of them around you. And it's sad. It's such a small country, but it's so advanced, and they're one of our biggest allies. And I'm not Jewish, by the way, at all. I'm just common sense conservative. Right. And we need, we don't need to be in everyone's business. I don't know if I'm all about getting into a bunch of wars and stuff. Right. But at the same time, we have to protect our ally. And that are about doing and they have a great society. They take care of their people. They don't enslave them. They don't treat women bad. They don't do all the stuff that these Middle Eastern countries do. And I tell you that I think President Trump, I have a lot of confidence in him, and I'd be worried if I was Iran. If you start launching against us or our allies, Israel did a targeted attack. They took care of think about it. If you're Israel and they're building a nuclear weapon, Israel's number one on the list, but guess who's number two? The United States of America. Right. They want us all dead too. So we should all take it serious, and I every Republican out there, I believe, agrees with me. I hope they do at least.
Right.
But I pray for them, and I pray for our troops. My son's an active duty Marine, so we'll see. I know he's heading to Alaska. I don't know why he's sending him to Alaska, but we'll see what happens, I guess.
You never know where they're going to send you. But God bless your son. I hope he does well. And but there's one other thing that is real quick is going on this weekend, and that's these protests, or what will probably turn out to be violent riots, as they say, all over the country. The No Kings protests, and we've got a bunch of them going on. We got one in Citrus, we got one in Tampa. They're going to be happening all over the place on Saturday. And I don't know, what's your final thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, your First Amendment right, you have a right to protest as long as you're not violent. You have a right to, you can't impede my travel. You can't attack me, things like that. If you don't do that, and I heard quite a few sheriffs out there, some good ones, including our governor, say, you better not mess with Florida citizens, because we have a right to defend ourselves, and we will. So if you attack me or my family, I will defend myself, along with just about every other person out there that's a law-abiding citizen. I would imagine they would do the same.
That's right. Well, we are, again, a red state. Not a good place to come start trouble. Maybe California, but not here. So,
well, hopefully we won't have that issue.
That's right. So. I don't think we will. But anyways, but Steve, thank you very much for joining me. You did promise to come back every once in a while and tell us, give us some updates on things going on with the Board of County Commissioners, and you've kept that promise so far. I do always put that invite out to the other commissioners. Ryan has come on, and would love to have the other three join me as well at some other time. So, but that's it for Get Real today, and we'll see you next week.